And I'm always fascinated by what she's into, what she's up to, what she's doing, what she's exploring. And her curiosity and fascination with things really inspires me. Let's hear it for Lynne Shapiro. Come on up.
Well, I can't see anyone with my glasses on, so hello. The first poem that I'm going to read, I just picked because I haven't read it in a while, and it dawned on me that I should say that it has absolutely nothing to do with my husband or my marriage. Thought that was important. It's called Improvised Lightning. And if I seem thirsty, I had a very salty lunch, so I apologize. A freak storm keeps us in. We watch Dial M for Murder on a local channel, imagining 3D glasses and recalling scenes where claustrophobia gives way to boundlessness. Blue gradations of flickering light cast a Hitchcockian profile on your face, and I see I'm with the wrong man. Life is no beauty parlor. You chew loudly as the blackmailer calls. You eat fish sticks with your fingers. Too bad, no bones. And when I dream of Monaco tonight, the noxious odor of Pollock will find my pillow. And just when there's no time to lose and Ray Milland plans the murder for the following night, you go to the kitchen to get a glass of water, bang, shut the cupboards, sit back down, and loudly dissolve a large effervescent tablet that brings only you relief. So what did I miss? A sudden thunderous wallop, the lights seem to burst, the power is severed, we are plunged into noir, pitch black silence of palpitating hearts. You rise for a flashlight. I pull a gun. Take that. I shoot you twice. Watch you sink into the quagmire of sofa cushions, sinkhole of lost desire. No more questions, you hear? I'm not your little kumquat. The lights return, power restored, the house hums. Bob Cummings offers a round of drinks. Tears stream down Grace Kelly's face. The inspector combs his mustache, and you snore. And I have a series of poems that have to do with endangered species. And this one is about the timber rattler, and it's called Summer of Snakes. July was marked by writhing groups, Crotalus horridus, timber rattlers, congregated on the dusty road to the cabin in primordial tangles and beneath the blueberry bush by the dock. But it was the one snake, the one quicksilver snake that traversed in sinuous silence the shaded bed of dry brown leaves overlooking the lake, a dammed portion of the Rockaway River, really. I no longer recall the particulars, not its color, though the leaves lie there still, surely different ones now, nor how it held its rattle, but it floated, seemed to float above ground, and that led me to move closer, to watch, despite fear. The children's voices swam in the distance. Time stopped, stretched, enough for me to be alone with the snake, then with one neighbor, then another, each to stand beside me and gaze. Time enough to phone the snake handler and find no one home. Time enough for the children to exit the water and take a look. And in all that time, the rattler never changed course. How I took leave of such uncommon beauty, I do not recall. I suppose it passed some boundary, the old outhouse, the edge of our property, where cover gives way to clearing. And 2, it was getting on late afternoon. Time for birthday cake and lemonade. Time for the neighbors to return to their cabins. Time for me to recognize happiness. But soon after, the neighbor boy rushed in, screen door banging shut, to announce his father had taken an axe, whacked off the head of the snake his sister almost stepped on, almost. Did he think killing it would make it ever safer? Within the hour, the family was packed, returned to the city, the weekend over, a severed snake near the woodpile. I cannot let go the pure energy, how it coursed before me, extinguished by a man who moments earlier stood in friendship and awe on my land, but with an axe on his. This next poem was in an exhibition in Brighton, England this summer, and it was read on a holiday that's been celebrated there called Remembrance Day for Lost Species. It's a poem that's dedicated to Necrophorus americanus, the burying beetle. And when I first began this poem, the beetles were endangered, and when I finished this poem, they were extirpated, extinct in the state of New Jersey. It's called Giving Up the Bones. Upon arrival, I circle the cabin, relieved to find no thieves in our absence and no snakes. Instead, alongside rising Indian pipe, ghostly white, I meet stillness, a fallen thrush, stoop to examine its freckled breast, its throat absent identifying warble, and delicately beaded lashes that surround hollows that mistook glass for sky. Victim of spring, I tell myself, I will take it home, boil and pluck feathers, study the bones. I leave the bird on the porch overnight. Walking to the outhouse, the carcass is reeling. One wing opens and shuts harmonium-like, a silent, eerie rhythm in the low light of daybreak. Closer, I see 2 carrion beetles, orange, red, and shiny black, 2 sextons that maneuver their Gulliver's weight to carry in an hours-long procession toward a hole dug earlier. Chickadees and their entourage of titmice, black and whites, brown creepers punctuate the canopy with tiny surround sound. And as the heat of the day to come becomes evident, the beetles reach the mouth of their hole and they descend into the underworld with my bird. Spoils enough to nourish a dozen futures that I will never see. Slightly lighter. This is a poem that happened spontaneously when I was in the most amazing garden I will ever be in my life. I was in East Sussex, England, surrounded by biodynamic farms, and I was in the garden that belonged to the woman who was the director of the Natural Beekeeping Trust, and I was there for a Bee Time Arts residency. And this poem was read on the Remembrance Day for Lost Species in Dublin on their pollinator poetry and music gathering at St. Michan's Church this year, so that was very exciting. And it's about a bee, so it's called Drone Poem. Drone Poem. Like a movie star, a flaneur, you drone you. We never expected to see you outside the pleasure palace, sunning on the grass, shining example of valor, earnest lust, and above all, lineage. Cameras poised, paparazzi clicks. We ponder your shapely, relative largesse. Shall we compare thee to a worker bee? Outsized, widescreen eyes, and your manly motives. Were you incognito, hoping to first the other actors and intercept the starlet, the leading lady she-bee, mid-flight, fulfilling your destiny as she flies off with your outsized reservoir of love? And that will be your end, dear drone. An archetypal performance, a proper Boulevardier's finale, an explosive orgiastic send-off, so that you may dwell forever in the pheromones of the eternal celluloid hive. And I have just a couple more, but this one is one of two visual poems, so obviously you're going to have to visualize them. This is a poem that looks like an hourglass, and it's called The Glass Hour. And when I first started writing it, for some reason, I thought, oh my goodness, this is an abecedarian poem. I'm going to write an abecedarian poem, which is a poem that follows the alphabet, roughly going through the alphabet, A through Z, only I started with G. And so the poem goes G, H, I, intoxicating, J, Jack in the pulpit, K, Kaddish. But that seemed sort of problematic, even though an hourglass doesn't really matter where you catch it, it starts over and over. But I decided to add the ABC part before the title. So it's a big explanation. So it's called, well, as beatific and calm as the days of our fortunate lives, the glass hour. And here's a quote from Apollinaire. You drink this burning liquor like your life, that you drink like an eau de vie. Intoxicating, the Jack in the pulpit's resurrection. I'm sorry to interrupt myself, but you should picture an hourglass being turned over. Will help you listen. The glass hour. Intoxicating, the Jack in the pulpit's resurrection. The Kaddish said daily, 3 times per, beginning on the day of dearth. The lantern case that protects flame from wind. Where is my lateral line? Where is my magnetic compass? Align me with the poles before the quizzling grain switches sides. Prepare me to cascade into the whatever, all risks worth taking. I am a turtle, useless until righted, and I see time is running out. The sand siphons into the next room. Hear the tally-ho of the triumphal crossing. The hour's destiny balanced. Is this over here? Is that over there? Balanced for but a moment. No Valentine to versatility, the sand veers in one direction down. In the end, a vestige of emptiness remains, spent as Vesuvius, victim of Earth's waning and wandering, a waste in the teeth of a tiger. The xeric container yields to gravity, yo-yos to and fro like mercury. Blessed is the hand that can turn the world upside down in an hour, back to our youth. Zipless transparency, oh rise and fall. This poem is, the left side is the groom's poem, and the right side is the bride's poem, and the title is really long and meant to look like a chuppah. That is the canopy under which both poems live. It's called, and it's a poem where I went to a wedding and met a relative that I had not known about and did not know about me, and they were my only family from Łódź, Poland, that I ever had the chance to meet. My grandfather's sister's great-great-grandson's wedding, Borough Park, Brooklyn, part 1. He put down hammer and nails, finished laying the banquet floor in time for his wedding. On it he stands, a boy, a man, in prayer, with eyes closed until the breaking of glass. His father takes his white wedding shirt within his fingers, works the buttons one by one tenderly, wraps the wide black cloth round and round and round his son's birth line. The groom's heart enters the black coat, his soul the hat. He is readied, walks within the father's guiding light to the chuppah. The bride traces the belt's centrifugal course, walks round and round and round the groom to stand beside him on the ground he laid, becoming herself a belt, the way story surrounds story in the Talmud, the way everything blooms from inside out. 2. She took me by the hand, seated me with her 5 sisters, opposite rows of fedoras and fur in a garden of tailored gowns. Around the chuppah, the bride journeyed 7 times an endless veil of night, each step a stitch, 7 times escorted by maternal illumination to stand at the threshold where the roof retracts, opens to the heaven above heaven. The sisters draw me close, whisper in honeysuckle. This be the holiest of time. Generations of ancestors right now have descended. 10 generations in this room, and they know that you are here with us too. I hear fabric and shoes upon shoes upon shoes, and I wonder, can unseen thread really restore what has been severed? And I have 2 little short poems after this. Thank you. Here's a poem that is usually the first poem I read, so it's somehow a very important poem to me. It's like my talisman poem. It's called Inception. In heaven, there's no dust. The furniture is polished. The period rooms are ordered. Nap time is the first room. Sun streams in from the alleyway. My grandmother closes the door. Alone in my crib I stand, let down the slats, pull myself onto a chair, sneak open the top drawer of the dresser I can't quite see in, and a handkerchief of ragged white moths escape. So many, I cannot hope to catch them all and set the room right. Thank you. And this is the snippet of a poem I've never read that is the part 2 of the rattlesnake poem. The rattlesnake severed, divided like lilies. Out ran a tiny Jonah, a mouse, surprised by light and air and second chances. Thank you. Thank you.
Are you ready for some music?